Evening, it is very wonderful, 2024, about 6 p.m. Welcome to the third installment of Cascade Law Sport Commission 2.0. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Lorraine,
Here.
Vice President Clute, here, Commissioner Nats,
He is excused.
Commissioner Peterson,
Here.
Commissioner Tweet, here.
Alrighty, modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda.
We're going to take, I'd like to take business action item C, number 4C, and move it to directly after our executive session. Fire chief's here with us tonight and get him back home with his family.
Okay. 3C, moving.
4C.
Oh, 4C, I'm sorry. Moving right after the executive session. Okay, fantastic. We're going to jump right into the executive session, kind of front load this thing. So it's executive session under ORS 192.6602F. Board Cascade Laws Commission will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F and 2H, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection and to consult with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room.
Hi,
So
Chris.
just a couple minutes, if anybody.
Be the only one.
Looks like it.
Excellent. We are back in regular session. And we want to entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to delegate the executive director to continue work with the attorneys to proceed with the pending state litigation.
I'll second.
We have a motion second to continue working with the attorneys on our litigation on our appeal. We have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving along. We are
Good. Grab the fire chief.
consent agenda.
We're going to grab fire chief first.
Or
We're going to grab fire chief first. We bumped him up.
4C.
We bumped the fire chief
oh,
up.
that's right, I'm sorry. Yes. Roof Fire Department rescue equipment not to exceed $3,500. You wanna?
Yeah, come on up here.
Here and give us a little,
So last year, last summer, we had the tragedy at the park where a young Native American man passed away in the lock swimming. The previous commission at that time asked the court to set aside $6,000 to provide to the fire department in potentially purchasing a jet ski. Me and Chief spoke the very next day. I said, hey, we got you $6,000 for a jet ski. He said, great, all we need is 60. So we came up fairly short on what it would be to get a jet ski. At the time, he said, you know, there are some things that we could really use that money for around river rescues. And I said, yeah, I think the commission would be open to that. We never asked for a formal formal motion from the commission on that, but speaking to each one individually, they just wanted to go to something that was going to be helpful for the fire department and doing river rescues. So Chief came to me a couple weeks ago, said, hey, is that still 6,000 still alive? And I said, you know what, I don't know, I put that in the budget this year. And I didn't. So I reached out to Melissa and said, hey, is there someplace in the budget? So her and Parker got together, found some stuff in the maintenance budget under small tools.
I don't remember what
I
it
think
is.
it's small tools, but we found a particular category that. Thank you. We found a particular category where the money's there and we can spend it. So that's what Chief's coming to you with today is his list of items that he would like to purchase. We also, in the background, are working with Hood River County Sheriffs, and they're attempting to get us a jet ski. I don't know if you know that part, Chief. Get us a jet ski for this season and potentially a boat for next season. So we just had someone leave the marina. We left that space open. Fingers crossed, we get a jet ski or get a boat in that down there to help with that. Anything you'd like to add, Chief, or tell us about the stuff you bought, or if you guys have questions for Chief?
Well, I haven't bought it yet, because the money hasn't been approved yet.
Yeah.
So I'm asking to replace our current life jackets that are getting towards the end of their usable life, for emergency services. Everything in my world expires regardless of its use. And so we're asking for 10 life jackets, which would put, some on each of our apparatus that would respond to the port area and to water rescue events. Along with those life jackets, each jacket is required to have an emergency whistle in case the person wearing it gets in trouble, as well as in the rescue world, most life jackets would have a knife that goes along with our rescue rope throw bags, in case one of us gets caught up into that rope. We would have a way to cut that rope and get us untangled from that rope. I have spoke with our Marine deputy for Hood River County Sheriff's Office. Right after the event last late spring, early summer. And I talked to some of my partners on the coast who have formal water rescue programs. And it's very expensive to do. Not only are the jet skis and the trailers very expensive, but all the gear that was required per person is very expensive, as well as the training is very expensive. So coordinating with the sheriff's office, we came up with this plan to at least get us some updated life jackets that same that they use, that we can get onto their boat, that we can tie ourselves off to their boat in the event of an emergency. And he is working with the Marine Board for the state of Oregon to get us a second boat for Hood River County. That if it goes to that far, I'll be writing letters of support for, in hopes that he can train some of my staff to operate said boat so we can get a quicker response time to water incidents. And it's not, just the people that jump off a bridge or their canoe flips over. It could be an incident on the stern wheeler out in the middle of the river, and we don't have access to it currently without the sheriff's office coming. So if we got that second boat, we can always get some of my staff in it and get out the stern wheeler in the event of emergency if they can't dock for some reason. So all in total, the expenditures would be less than the 35,000. Yeah, 3,500 is next year. It says that aside, chief. It's been a long day. It's been a long day of number crunching.
10 jet skis, right?
Yeah, 10 jet skis. Yeah, right. I did provide Jeremiah with some pictures of what was wanted. I don't know if
It should be in your package, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the life jackets we currently have are coming up on expiration, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily not usable, but just not safe for like the rescue.
Correct.
Would you be donating them to maybe like Orange Canoe Club or like?
Yes,
summer program?
if they could use those.
That'd be awesome,
They're a little bit bulkier than what most of the paddlers would wear,
right?
or what a swimmer would wear. There's other programs where,
Or donating them somewhere.
yeah, there's a program where most of United States fire equipment that is expired gets sent to Mexico, and so it would be somewhere that we could help a third world country or a smaller country that can't afford stuff, get at least something.
Right.
So they would definitely be donated somewhere.
The life jackets, they're really particular about. I learned this being on the stern wheeler. Coast Guard will just come out and run razor blades right down the front of them if they're expired so that they don't get reused. So I think that's one of the ones that you're, like you said, I'll have to go to a third world country or something where they.
Yeah, one thing you might want to check, if you're going to donate life vests, I would check out the CETO Foundation.
Yes,
They were responsible for setting up life vest stations at the Porterford River.
I've actually applied for the last 3 years to that foundation to get life jacket citation for the Marine Fire, and there's not been successful, but I'm gonna keep trying.
And what about the race associations? During races, it would be nice to have, I don't know if they're required to have a certain
There might be two.
rescue.
Yeah, they might-
Around one of those two.
They have safety boats out there.
Yeah.
Okay, one of you fine commissioners want to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the fire department rescue equipment not to exceed $3,500.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion, a second to approve the expenditure for department rescue equipment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Have a great day.
Thanks for your design. All right, now, consent agenda, approval of minutes for commission meeting for January 16th, 2024. Ratification of bills in the amount of $196,824.72. Approval of payroll for both 1/19/24 and 2/2/24 in the amount of $75,368.74. Approval of 2024-2025 budget schedule and appoint Matt Atkin as budget officer. That is it.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Thank you.
I second that motion.
Okay, there's been a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda as stated. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Business action items. Approve LGGP grant agreement for Bridge of the Gods Trailhead Restrooms project in the amount of $152,228.08. Who's taking that one?
That's me, and that amount might be a little bit of a typo on the agenda. So we have received notification of award of our penny grant application to the local government grant program that was to fund the prefabricated restroom and shower unit for the parking lot at the end of Moody Avenue. So we're asking you to approve that grant agreement that's in your packet and also authorize the immediate purchase of the Rainier model prefabricated restroom and shower unit. We did receive an updated quote from that. So the amount of $149,108.08 that's on page 11 of your packet is an accurate purchase order amount. We do have about $12,000 above that in the grant budget as contingency, anticipating between now and delivery. We might have some cost increases in the delivery costs. It takes 150 to 180 days from the date of order to deliver the unit. When we first started this grant application, the purchase is under a state contract that at that time included the provision that the vendor would do the utility hookups upon delivery, and that is no longer part of the contract. So we will have to either do that work in-house or put it out to bid upon delivery. So we've got a budget there for that. The grant requires about $40,000 match. And this is a reimbursement grant. So that's about 20% of the project cost. So as we submit expenses, we'll be reimbursed only 80% of the expenses that so you know how the cash flow works is we'll only get 80% of what we spend each time we submit a reimbursement request. We have submitted a grant application to the Mount Hood Gorge, Experience Mount Hood Gorge, which is our regional destination marketing organization. They have a small grant fund that totals about $78,000. That is lodging tax money that has gone through the state and then from us to the state and then back out to our regional DMOs for this grant fund. We've made a request for $19,000. They've got such a small fund. I'm not sure what the likelihood of this is. Just want you guys to know that we have applied for that grant that could help offset about half of that local match requirement, but no promises. If you agree to this grant, you are committing those funds as match. Trying to think of what else, but
We have 40,000 in the budget that will be able to cover this.
Yes,
Also, the continued maintenance of these restrooms, we assume, right?
yes, it'll be the port.
Do we have an estimated annual budget for that yet?
Additionally, thank you for mentioning that, all of the state agencies had to review our application, and the final one to come in was the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, who in their approval of our application included a contingency that the garbage cans that we purchased for this facility need to be bear-proof garbage cans. They are being very, very helpful. They have provided me with a list of vendors for the bear-proof cans, and they also solicited a $500 donation from the Oregon Humane Society on our behalf to help fund the cans, which was approved. So we expect it'll be about $1,000 for the cans, and the Oregon Humane Society is stepping up already with $500 for that.
all right. All right,
I will make a motion to approve the LGTBP grant agreement for Bridge of the Bass Trailhead restrooms project in the amount of $149,158,228
is the total grant award.
$158,228. $158,228.
And second that, somebody.
okay, got a motion and a second to approve the grant agreement for the BOG Trailhead Restrooms project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Do we need to make a motion, a second motion for the authorization to purchase?
Yes.
All right, so I make a motion to authorize the purchase of a Rainier model prefabricated restroom and shower unit from CPS Incorporated upon receipt of the notice to proceed from Oregon Parks and Recreation Department in the amount of $149,108.08.
I second that motion.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to pay for the prefabricated restroom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Yes, ma'am. Approve landlord consent and waiver form for landmass wines.
One of our tenants in the Flex 2 building, Landmass Wines, has come to us. They're looking to take a small business loan from SVB. SVB has a form that they'd like us to, that they were requiring to be filled out in order for Landmass to receive their loan. And basically what it does is it puts their equipment up as collateral against that loan. Within our lease, there is already language that puts us in the very first position on their equipment. And this is asking us to take second position behind the bank. And that's what signing this paperwork would do. It's something that we've previously done for other tenants. Typically there's a question of, is this tenant making their payments on time? Are they a good relationship with the port? How's business going for them? These are all things that we've checked into with Landmass, although Landmass is just a great tenant. They pay on time, give us calls regularly about things that are happening on the business park, whether it's updates on things that need to be done for them or things that their business are doing. They're fantastic tenants for us. I had Tommy take a look over the language, make sure he didn't have any issues with it. He doesn't, as long as the commission is okay with taking second position behind the bank.
Do you have an estimate of how much that personal property is worth?
I do not. Okay. I don't. And generally, we actually talked to Tommy. There's actually a few I's to dot and T's to cross if we were actually to go in and take their equipment. It's long-standing language within our leases, but really nothing that we've ever executed on before. nor do I know how beneficial it would be for me to have that equipment. Obviously, it's a dollars and cents sort of a deal, but if I just all of a sudden was the owner of winemaking equipment, I'd have to figure out a way to sell it, and it would have to go through asset disposition through the state, and it would just be sort of a nightmare. So, I don't know that it would solve any problems.
And I don't have enough room in my shop. Sure, I'll make it fine, so.
It would be my recommendation that we did this for us. They're great tenants. We want to see their business grow. They're doing better and better every year. They've talked about increasing their space with us if something ever becomes available, so.
Excellent.
All right, I make a motion to approve, the landlord lien waiver and consent to removal of personal property for land masterpiece.
I'll second.
Okay. Been a motion and a second to approve the waiver for land mass wise. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, executive report.
Yeah, so at my last meeting, I let you guys know that every Friday I was gonna be sending you just sort of an update from what was happening in the week, the port that week. I was very proud of myself when I finished that on Friday and then came into work today and was like, oh, it's still on my screen. So you all got it this morning, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
You will see a summary of those two reports now showing up at this meeting. So every week you'll get that report and then a summary in this report. I won't read it to you, but I'll hit some of the highlights. Janetta had some good success in the last couple of weeks in bringing some more weddings. So we continue to see us being a hotspot for weddings and not actually that difficult to sell, more difficult to schedule. We very often get multiple people wanting the exact same day. So it really isn't who do we sell this to, it's how do we coordinate as many weddings as possible. We could do more. Parker has been working diligently with David on getting us with the bridge move. So we've gone out for a number of quotes on that. He's putting together a safety program for that for anybody who comes out and does the actual work. We've reached out to the family whose fishing platform was destroyed. We got some quotes from them. So we continue to put the numbers together on that, keeping insurance sort of involved step for step. Probably going to be in the neighborhood of $200,000. That's what the contingency. We're still working on those numbers. And as we get closer, we'll bring them to you. An update on the pump. We talked about this a little bit last week that the Sterling Stop and Sewer Lift Station, it's currently running at half capacity. That's something that's going to have to be replaced or repaired, most likely replaced, or most likely replaced. We brought in a temporary one that they've got running at $75 a week until we get that solved. Our backhoe arrived, which is so exciting. Like all the guys, we went down, we looked at it, we walked around it, like we kicked the tires, they let me start it. We were very excited. So we ordered it over a year ago. It finally arrived, which means we can dig holes again.
Just check this.
Yeah. So we can dig holes again. It's been a while since we've been able to dig a hole. So when next time you guys are out in the business park, be looking for some new signage that we have out there. It's been waiting to go up for quite a while. Genevieve also finished up getting rid of the old backhoe for us, so it's no longer sitting at Dennis Snyder's property. It's now
You have a place to store the new one?
yes. Storage is never an issue with maintenance. Yeah, it'll eventually, we'll probably put it in a cage.
Probably put it in a cage, more than likely, which is the space just west of the pellet manufacturer.
Maintenance would love me to turn Flex 6 into a maintenance shop, but we
Right.
haven't quite figured out the financing. But yeah, so it's in Flex 6 at the moment as well as
You can never write off like 6 months.
So we're going to get Todd out of that building.
You're right. He's already jabbing
I'm
on
like, no, this is my space.
So I think Parker told us last week, the coach shacks had been, we pulled out the barbecues out of the coach shacks. They'd taken some damage during the storms, and just generally they were kind of beat up. We kicked a number of people out of the park in the winter who were using them to actually build fires and stay warm. So, and generally they were never really a good fit. We're still sort of looking at what our options is, whether we just cap them over, and a lot of times people bring their own gas barbecues and put them right there anyway. So might be helpful. We're still solving that one. Carrie Ann asked me to remind you about your guys' SEI filings in March. Make sure you guys get those done. They can actually, ethics can gain you guys in the personal pocketbook, so make sure you get those finished. We have finalized the strategic business plan for March 9th, so we'll have that. Me and Genevieve sat on a call today and went over what they've got so far. We think you guys will be impressed. They've made a lot of work on it. We still have a lot of work to do. It's exciting to see it start to come together. So March 9th will be that meeting, and we're still doing that work. Genevieve had a couple of meetings with me and Dan, Sarah Cahoot.
Yeah.
From Congressman Perez's office. We did a tour with her. Janetta also sat down with Genevieve, and they talked a little bit about what the future of events look like. Janetta's been very excited to make some updates out on the wedding sites that she thinks could drive up some of the pricing that we get for our wedding sites. And then just generally the way that we approach events in general. So Janetta reports directly to Genevieve, so they've been catching up on that department and all the exciting things that she sees in its future. I'm trying to hit the high points instead of all of them. Joint permit application with the U.S. Coast Guard for the ACL dock and mitigation project. We're evaluating potential Connect Oregon grant opportunities to fund the shore power. So when that dock gets built out there, having shore power for the boat, that's something we're looking at there being some potential grant opportunities for. We see it as a pretty good fit. We don't know that we'll make it this year, but next year. So Melissa has been working with Marina & Co. on getting caught up on some of the stuff that we talked about at the Finance Committee subcommittee, but getting us caught up with our audits. We've got 2 of them that are coming down the pipeline. It looks like we're going to be finished with our the 2021 audit. Looks like we're going to be finished with that by the end of February. So good news there. Obviously lots of payroll and PERS and a busy week in finance in general. Legislative updates, the bridge bill unanimously passed the work session with the Joint Transportation Committee. And now advances to Joint Ways and Means Committee. So how are they actually going to pay for this? There'll be another work session potentially on it on Friday. If anyone from the commission is interested in going down and testifying at that, that's something we could do. It's going to be kind of a long day trip. We'll probably get around 10, probably get back around 4 for you to get to spend 2 minutes talking about how you think it's a good fit. But we would love to have any of you, if any of you would like to go. Couple other things that came late that didn't make the agenda, but we'd like to have some direction on. The city is looking for a letter of support for their legislative ask in order to move that power line. You guys heard of this? So there's a power line that needs to be moved. It's holding up an ODOT project. We've known about it for a while. We didn't come up with the money to move it, so they're looking at a lobbyist to see if they can find some funding at the state level for it. They have asked us for a letter of support. In theory, our project could challenge their project, but they also wrote us a letter of support. So probably as a good neighbor, it would be ideal for us to do that letter of support. If nobody has any issues with that, I'm going to have Dan go ahead and put a letter of support together from the board for the city.
Is there a reason that we wouldn't? Are there any risks or?
Only that they're going after the same pools of money that we are. So in theory, they could get approved and we couldn't, and we'd be like, we wrote a letter of support, but probably not really. Not really. There's really no good reason not to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The other piece, and I didn't make it, but it would probably be good for us to get a motion for it. Rob, can you tell us a little bit about that email with the training that you sent us over, that you sent me over about the life jackets? So I know you said there was a program and it's just slightly different. It's not a training that we've ever sent a commissioner to before. I generally know you guys are going to be supportive of this because we just got done talking about it, but because it's a new training.
There's a foundation called CETO Foundation, and they are the grantor that provided the life vest stations in the Port of Hood River and several other places in Oregon. Their grant window opens up in November 2024. in about a week or two, there's a remote session and a meeting somewhere on the East Coast. It's a conference about life vest stations, the grant writing process, some business contacts who to talk to about that. I think it would be very beneficial for the port to be involved and get a heads up about it because, you know, given our recent drownings and other incidences with the stern wheeler, I think it's time to actually have life vest stations along our waterfront. So I don't see why we shouldn't be involved. And I believe the conference pricing is $30 to attend for that.
Yeah,
So
I would love to send Rob back to go to that training. I think he's probably just as qualified as any of us. I spend probably more time on the water than I do, but we'd love to send Rob back. That'd be a new training for us, not one that we just typically do.
there's actually 3 core vendors that supply the life vests through that CETO Foundation. One of them's a Portland-based company called Onks Life Vests, and they're a big player in donating life vests.
Make sure they don't get stolen. Every time I've seen the life vest station, there's literally no life vests on it.
And you can't just like put them on a 200-foot cable.
Right.
Yeah.
I would put a line from down there, it doesn't last a week.
Yeah,
Right.
I think there probably is issues around that. Hopefully at this conference, they talk about that and how to solve that, or if there's an answer for it, or.
Well, I would definitely, if I do attend this conference, I would definitely pose those questions. I don't see why we couldn't also get maybe some surveillance in those areas as well. You know,
The cops aren't gonna do much around stolen life vests that are donated probably either.
as of right now, Port of Skamania, Stevenson, they have several life vest stations. Port of Hood River has one. It seems like we're the only port within a 50-mile radius that doesn't have any life vests available to the public. So
Right.
I think for the $30 entry fee for that event, we probably get to learn a lot from it. So
Yeah.
if anybody doesn't have the issues with it, we'll send Rob back there and check it out. Cool.
Okay.
And then one more thing that I wanted to bring up, and me and Genevieve kind of went back and forth on this, and so did me and Dan. So we hired Dan Marr as our lobbyist. And really one of the reasons that we brought Dan in is he had such strong contacts at the federal level. And although we haven't doing a ton of work at the state level for us right now and having some great successes down there, it really was the 8 years that he spent back at the federal level that we were so excited about. We had planned to skip this year going back to Washington DC. It's usually a trip we do every single year. We send back a couple commissioners, sometimes the executive director, sometimes the lobbyist. We've taken members of the city back before. It all just depends what our ask is. This year we don't have a federal ask. And also we're pulling some of our finances together. I said, I think we'll just skip Washington DC this year. In sort of an informal conversation, we started talking about, are we losing any ground by not sending Dan back there this year? Right? Dan's first year not being back in DC, and then he skips a year. Is there any benefit to us to send Dan back this year? And people go, hey, Dan, what are you doing here? And he immediately gets to say, I'm with the Port of Catholic Locks. There's some amazing new things happening. I don't have an ask for you this year, but next year we're going to be looking for this and this. EPA
and USDA.
So EPA and USDA are 2 entities that we would probably try to put him in front of out there. Genevieve foresees some $2 million, $3 million grants in our horizon that we'll be asking for at the federal level. So we never really did come up with a recommendation to make to the commission. We see the upside. We also see that, let's save the money and do it next year because there isn't a specific ask. So I don't know that we can really go wrong with this one. And as much as I'd like to say this is what I think you guys should do, I think either way we're good. Like Dan's doing a great job for us at the state level. He's plenty busy. If we send him back to DC, he's going to kill it for us. It won't be just a wasted trip, but it's not going to be cheap. $5-6 grand is probably what it's going to be to send Dan back there.
But you do have the money in the budget for it, you're budgeted.
And I have suggested that we just get him a subway gift card. That will keep.
DC Metro.
So we can go either way. And he has plenty going on. It's not as if we're looking for work for him right now. He's got plenty going on. So you guys have any thoughts on that? If you want to go a direction with it, if you want to stay the course, if we want to send Dan back there, whatever you guys think.
What do you think is getting done in DC, you know?
That
Been there a few times.
being in your face is all about it, how to get the work done, even though there is no work to be done, you also don't want to get forgotten.
Any other thoughts?
And we have the money in the budget, so, I mean,
So we're gonna.
if we're only getting 1%,
A consensus would be fine. It's already budgeted for, right? It's already budgeted for. I can make the decision to send Dan back there and have him do some lobbying work for me on behalf. So I don't really need a motion for it, but I'd like everybody to generally think it's a good idea.
I think it's money well spent, like I said, Dan's a very skilled and we'll know who to talk to, know what.
And we'll spend some time making sure we get them lined up too. We'll have a full itinerary for Dan.
Sounds good.
no flying first class.
No flying first class. Subways for dinner. I'll talk to Dan too. We're also gonna keep a close eye on what's happening in Oregon, at the state level. If it feels slippery at all, then we'll make sure that he's here in Oregon if something were to need his attention. If it continues to go the path which it is going, which is really lacking any sort of resistance, the last time they talked about the bill, they said it was past business that needed to get finished up. So it really does feel like we're doing well for that $6 million ask. But if we did, for whatever reason, feel like it was getting slippery, we'd keep Dan here.
We'll book a refundable.
And we'll refund the ticket, or we'll send Genevieve.
What you can do during, while, PNWA conference is going on, because there may be some networking.
See, it's not, so yeah, she'll go back with PNWA on their mission into Washington DC. So we'll meet all the PNWA folks, they'll get to spend time with some of the other ports. They'll go back and talk about whatever's on their legislative issues. I'm sure that they'll talk about the dams on there and some of that stuff. And then he will use the opportunity, mostly to talk about what's coming down the pipeline for us. And also just, hey, I'm the new lobbyist.
Yeah, this year is, Columbia River, buyout is still, Columbia River Treaty and, so a lot of things going on that affect us kind of indirectly.
And everybody get geared up because some of you are going back with them next year. I don't fly. I'm not a flyer, so.
I'll go to DC.
Okay, sounds good.
I used to live there.
Did it? I didn't know that.
For 2 years.
And that's all I have.
All right. Well, commissioner comments, start on this.
I think the only thing I really have is that I wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the museum is reopening on March 1st.
Great.
So we've got that,
With a new employee too.
yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah. Yeah, some exciting things were kind of presented at the last board meeting about potentially combining our nonprofit with the Hood River one and turning into like kind of one big gorge museum type organization. It's just in the very, very beginning stages of being, an idea at this point. So lots to research and see if it's something that could work out, but they just lost their executive director over at the Hood River Historical Museum. And so it could be an opportunity to, grow
Combine some resources.
and combine resources and stuff. Not really sure of what direction that'll go. I think the next step is to meet with their board and kind of see what their view is on that as well. Otherwise, I'm just excited for the strategic business for the next step. So we can start making actual plans with our land and getting more businesses in and more jobs here.
Me too. We had a good meeting about that today. That was exciting.
Nice.
What's that? Sorry.
We had a good meeting about the strategic business plan today. We just did it. It was the last thing we did before we walked in here. So it's still fresh in my mind. Yeah.
Sweet.
I'll go. I am very pleased with the way the port has taken on with Genevieve coming on and with the new port coming, new commissioners coming together. I'm sure Jeremiah felt a lot of pressure for all the changes that we were asking for. And I know I, for one, was calling him like every week, also learning. But I'm seeing the changes and I'm seeing some of the things that have been requested, not just by me, come to fruition. So it's really, it's motivating to see the changes and how we can be better in the future. So it's like the first stage is over and we're moving to our second stage. And I really appreciate all of you, and I've learned from each of the commissioners, and thanks a lot.
Awesome. First, thank you to Jeremiah. I really like those weekly summary reports. It really helps the commission be prepared for the meeting, stay engaged, and ask questions at the meeting to help us make better decisions. Also, Genevieve, thank you for really pushing for that grant of the bathroom facilities on the trail. It's really exciting because PCT Days is a really big event in August, and maybe those will be ready by then, maybe not, but it's good to see more development on our PCT trail and build the brand that Cascade Locks is a friendly hiking town. Also, thank you, Parker, with your investigations on the stern wheeler and bridge repair process. Albert's cooperation with me on the root cause analysis. Melissa, thank you for working with Marine and Co. Getting prepared for the budget committees coming up soon. And also helping with the finance subcommittee with myself and Albert. Really kind of giving us a clear picture of how the audit process works. Also, I'll be attending next month the second annual planning meeting, which actually is on March 1st, where the museum opens up. Gorgeous Beer will be reopening up. That's where we'll have our planning meeting.
Good.
And they just suffered some water damage a couple months ago, and they're finally opening up. So it'll be good to see one of the Main Street businesses reopen. Also, there's some local budget training. Thank you, Carrie Ann, for scheduling all that for me next month. So get a better picture on all that. And just a big thank you to the commission too, your willingness to stay eager and learn and attend all these conferences and make connections out there. So I appreciate it.
Well, I'm just continually impressed by the level of questions and dialogue that goes on between the commissioners and, whether it's with our attorney, with our staff, and the way you all jumped in and took trainings and that sort of thing. Spent some time with Parker and Genevieve at our recent event down with SDAO. That was great. Had some good training sessions. I took a very valuable one that hopefully I'll learn something from how to endear myself in the eyes of the public.
Yeah.
Something I've been working on. So much needed. But so some great trainings. It was great to spend some time with Parker and Genevieve. We got a great staff. Commissioners are fantastic. I think I'm also looking forward to us finishing up the strategic business plan and getting moving on that. Also, March 16th, it's kind of cool every weekend. March 16th. We have a training session going on, still yet to be announced where it will be. John Morgan from Morgan CBS, the Chinook Institute of Civic Leadership, is going to be doing a training, and this is not just for the commission, it's for the planning commission, it's for council members or anybody else in the community that wants to know how we're going to use planning, whether it's strategic updates on the our strategic business plans, on our community development code updates, zoning, how we're going to achieve the things that we want to achieve in our strategic business plans. Also, what are the powers and responsibilities of each of the different entities, how they work together, how the council can work with the planning commission and not overstep, understanding what each of their roles are and how they kind of dovetail together and how they use those to the best of their abilities. And how we're going to partner both with the city and with the planning commission and with our planner on where we're moving forward, how we're going to work with whether it's John Morgan or we're going to work with Darren, Eggman, how we're gonna work with them on, the things that we wanna do. I'm continually impressed when I throw out some crazy idea and Jeremiah says, you know, yeah, Genevieve and I were just talking about that idea last week. You know, so they've already beat me to the punch and they're already ahead of the game on some of the things that we're discussing about complex six and some other things about potential uses. So I'm just continually impressed by the team that we're putting together and how that's all kind of coming together. But that's all I have. If there's nothing else, oh, we did have a couple of motions that oh, just consensus on.
Yeah, I think we're good with consensus on those.
Let's make a motion to adjourn.
Good to go.
Okay. All right, then we move to another motion. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion to adjourn.
Well,
Somebody
he
has to make a motion first.
entertained it. You have.
I have motion second. Does that work?
Yeah, no
Okay,
worries.
motion second. Okay. All those in favor?
Bye.
All right. Thank you for.
I think I'm still on the board of the brain. I'm so tired.
Thanks, everyone.